All right, cool. We're going to go ahead and get started, guys, because we got very limited time. So my name is Matt. This is Jeremiah and Philip.
Hello.
Hey. Jeremiah, why don't you quickly introduce yourself and tell me why you deserve to be in the scene.
Sweet. Hey everybody. If I haven't met you, my name is Jeremiah King. I am the Central MD here at Faith.
Yeah, you are.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I'm the newbie on the team here, which is awesome. I'm a musician, obviously, so I play piano and other instruments. My relation to production has been a lot from the musician standpoint. So I'm a musician for hire around the Charleston, really the Southeast area, and so a lot of times my experience in studio has been musicians or a lot of times vocalists bringing me in studio to work alongside with the producer. And I'm kind of helping them get their ideas from pencil and paper or sometimes even just voice notes on a phone to actually like realize songs. So a lot of times for me, that includes adding different instruments or a lot of times layering different synths and things like that, helping them with voicings of chords. They might know how to play the basic C, A minor, G, but not know how to like make those voicings a little bit more spicy to be able to like fit their vocal. Helping them find their sound. A lot of times they know what they want, but they don't know how to express that to a producer. So I'm kind of there to help them along that process.
Nice. Philip, how about you?
My turn. Hey guys, Philip. Play guitar mainly. Now I play guitar mainly. I started out with drums, guitar, bass, all that stuff. I'm learning keys, so I can try to be like Jeremiah over there. But when it comes to producing and writing a song and stuff, I've been playing since I was 7. Been in bands my whole life. A lot of different genres. Of bands. Recently, probably in the last 2 years, I really got into songwriting, producing, set up a home studio. Praise God. This year, I've been like involved. I just got offered my 12th project this year to be involved in. Started getting paid, so that's cool.
Nice.
And been blessed to be around a lot of good people like this guy, who I consider a mentor. And some mentors around the area and across the nation that really help lead and give me some insight on what to do. Yeah.
Nice. I'm going to keep it short and sweet.
Yeah.
So I'm Matt. I've had the opportunity here at Faith to work on a number of projects. I was the lead producer on Unshakable. So the first album that we released in 2018, that was mostly me. And then I was a co-producer on Worthy to be Praised. And I've done a couple little other things for other people, but mostly Faith stuff. So, let's go ahead and get started. So you may be in here and you're like, what in the world are we talking about? What is a producer? So the producer is the person that helps an artist realize and execute their vision for a project. So essentially, usually what they're doing is they're taking a song, a demo of a song, and they're taking that song from demo all the way through to mix stage and sometimes beyond that. And I know I'm saying things you might not totally understand in the process. We'll get there. So songwriters and artists will either hire a producer to come alongside them to work on a project together, or they will self-produce. And most smaller artists are going to self-produce their stuff. That's most of the experience like that we have together. In working on all the stuff with Faith. That was essentially what that was, is I was self-producing for Faith, stuff that we were writing, stuff that we were putting out there. There can also be situations where you have many producers on a project. There's some songs, a lot, especially nowadays, there's a lot of pop songs out that it's not uncommon to have 10 plus producers on a project. That will all have producer credits by the time everything is said and done, depending on what samples were used in the song, what different little clips you'll hear that maybe somebody was like, let's do that.
Yeah.
Everybody that has a suggestion gets a producer. Anybody with a suggestion on a song gets a producer credit.
Especially in CC.
Yeah. So to clarify too, producing is not the same thing as mixing. So when you're working on a song, a lot of times you'll see somebody behind a computer and you'll be like, oh, that's the guy that does the magic and makes song come out speaker. And while true, Producers do not, they are not the ones that are mixing the project. Sometimes a producer will mix a project, but those are going to be two different stages of the production process. So you're going to start with the person who's songwriting. That person might not be the end artist. That's very common, where you'll have a song that is written and then they are either going to sell the song or license it to somebody else. Yeah. So the other thing too is that producing is more, you may have seen somebody like behind a computer, for example, Phineas, the brother of Billie Eilish. You'll see him behind the scenes a lot, and it's actually cool because he's one of those producers that really gets a lot of time on the camera. You'll see him all the time, and he's very heavily involved in her music, and he's extremely talented. He writes his own stuff too and puts his own stuff out. But you'll see the guy behind the computer that's like just putting instruments in on the computer. And a lot of times you'll call that a producer as well. It's not just that. It's not just putting VST instruments in. It is the entire process of recording all of your instruments and making the song sound good together. That's what a producer is doing. So depending on the genre, it might look different. In pop, you're going to get a lot of electronic stuff. So that's why you typically see that.
Yep.
Producers often also work as the primary recording engineer. So whenever you're recording a song, if say you have a vocal that you need to get takes of, they're going to be the person that is monitoring everything, making sure that your gain's hitting everything on the microphone correctly, and then whenever you're done recording, if you're a songwriter or an artist, that person is then going to comp the vocal. They're going to edit everything. So they're really doing a lot. A producer is extremely important in this process because they're usually handling all of the editing, unless they're big and have interns doing that stuff, which can happen. So yeah, I want to talk about really quick. And I'm promise we're gonna let everybody have input here. I promise. Quickly, my process. So if you are a songwriter, that's what I'm imagining. Most people in this room would be somebody who's written a song and you're wanting to record a song and eventually you want to release a song. This is kind of the rough process that you would go through to make this happen. So the first thing that you would do is you need to record a demo. And what a demo is it's essentially just a rough recording of the bones of the song.
Mapping of the...
Yes. So you're going to take what is your you want to be pretty set in stone on your arrangement. You want to have your lyrics figured out. Obviously, things can change. That's not the end of the world if things change later on. But you're going to take the bones of the song and you're going to record it. Now, it can be a voice memo on your phone. It does not matter the quality. Ideally, ideally you want to be able to hear the vocal pretty well. And you want at least one instrument take.
Yeah.
The idea is you are, as the songwriter or artist or both, you want to translate the vibe of the song to a recording that a producer that doesn't know your project, that doesn't know the heart of what you're doing, can listen to that and pretty quickly pick up what you're putting down, if that makes sense. Because it's very important that you as an artist are able to translate that to your producer. Because especially nowadays, there's so many instruments that you can use, so many different sounds, pads, arps, things, millions of possibilities. A song can go crazy directions, and still be the same song, but sound totally different.
Yeah.
So that producer, you need to be able to give them some sort of idea what you're going for. So you want to record a demo. That's going to be your voice. Again, if you're just a songwriter and you have no intention of putting the song out yourself, but you want to write music, extremely common. That's huge in the pop world. You'll see songwriters that don't have great voices that are insanely good poets and insanely good songwriters that will make millions of dollars selling music to big name artists that tour all the time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you don't need to feel weird about, my voice isn't quite there. Or I'm sick today. It's just, you want to get the demo done. Get the demo done. Doesn't matter really how it sounds. Now you want to do that to a click. That's important. Because, and when I say that, I mean, you want a metronome in your ears. You want to be able to play that to a click, unless the genre is something where a click is not important.
Yeah.
Right. So something where click is almost hindering you. A lot of Americana music, stuff that's really popular right now, Zach Bryan, like a lot of that sort of stuff doesn't use click on purpose. And most of the time that is just dropping demos anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
He's putting demos straight on Spotify. So you'll see artists like that where a click hinders the vibe. Most music, that's not the case. So you want to record with a click. And the reason that is because what your producer is going to do, at least in my workflow and the workflow I've seen from a lot of guys, is they're going to take that demo that you record, just like the voice memo, whatever, they're going to drop it into a project on Ableton or Logic or whatever you're using. What do you use?
Ableton and Logic.
Both. Ableton. I'm an Ableton boy. Most producers are Ableton boys. So you're going to take that track and you're going to put it into that project, and you're going to put all the metadata in it. So you're going to put the tempo of the song. You're going to put the key of the song. You're going to put, I even go so far as to put markers in for my arrangement. That's really handy up front. It can make your life a lot easier, if you go and change the arrangement later. Mm-hmm. So they're going to go through and add all that stuff around your demo. Because at the end of the day, the demo is the song. Blueprint. It just doesn't sound great, right? So it's the blueprint of the song. And it's always home base. So if there's ever a question about, like, oh man, I can't remember how that transition went into, like, the chorus from the pre-chorus or something, like, how many beats did they skip there? Like, you can always refer to the demo. So the demo is the most important thing. You're gonna need to get that recorded. The second thing that I would say is almost just as important as your demo is a reference track.
Yes.
Explain what a reference track is.
Yes. Okay, so a reference track. Let's say you've written a song, you got your song completely finished, and you have a perfect idea of how your song's going to sound in your head. So the next point is you want to be able to translate that, like Matt said, in a version of a demo to a producer. So you get that demo to the producer, they're listening to it, and now they're wondering, now that I have their demo, how can I make this demo sound like what they have in their head? So the great thing you can do is give them something called, or maybe multiple, a reference track. Yeah. A reference track is very, very similar music sonically, or maybe even you hear a guitar on a certain song that you love. Man, the way that guitar sounds and how choppy and distorted it sounds, I want that exact kind of sound on my song. So I'm going to send this producer this reference track that has this guitar on it, and I'm going to point out to them things like, man, the way the drums sound here, super dead drums. I love those dead, R&B drums, or I love that ambient guitar, whatever it is. Reference tracks are just songs that have super specific sounds that you would love to hear on your record. So the producers have kind of a...
Literally just got one today of a guitar bar, and they're like, I want the guitar to sound just like that.
Exactly. So reference tracks, the other thing too, and a few artists that I've worked with before that have never done this exact process there's a little bit of hesitancy with reference tracks because sometimes when we talk about reference tracks, it's easy to think, oh, we're copying that song.
Yeah.
That's not the case. Truthfully, you could, from my experience, you could literally go through and try to copy the song, and you're still going to have your own unique song. Unless you are literally going line for line,
word for word,
note for note, you can lean way heavier into reference tracks than a lot of people do because there is this fear that you're going to copy. You don't need to be worried about that. And I would even say in CCM, almost everything that we are doing, and now you might not be a CCM writer, but almost everything that we're doing has been done before.
Yeah.
Sorry. So there's reference tracks are super helpful, and they're going to make that process easier of translating your vision to your producer. They're going to feel a lot more comfortable with the project, and even yourself. If you're self-producing, it's going to be a lot easier to always kind of fall back to that reference track or reference tracks for inspiration.
And I would say that's especially important for you vocalists that are writing songs that are going to be leaning on musicians to play for you on those songs. reference tracks helps me be like, I know you want an A minor, but I can do that with 30 different patches or 80 million sounds. So like reference tracks are extremely important for the people playing for you.
Yeah.
Yes. The next thing, and this is something that I learned way later because I didn't really know it was like an actual thing. It's called a hook. Now I use that word not quite the same way as like certain genres of music will call a hook like something different. I know like in hip hop and R&B, when you talk about the hook, it's a specific thing. It's like you're actually referring to the hook of the song.
Part that grabs them.
In a lot of genres, we still use that same term, but it's a lot more loose. So what I mean by the hook is it's that thing that is the essence of the song. A lot of songs you'll hear this in Worthy to Be Praised. That intro line is the hook. The down, that was one of those things that Daniel, when he was producing that song, that was one of the first things he came up with. And it was the thing that spawned the creative direction for the rest of the song. It's So Sweet. A lot of you guys probably remember that song. It's So Sweet on the Unshakable album. The hook of that song came from Kyle at 1:30 in the morning on the piano was joking around on a chord run and did that on the chorus of It's So Sweet where it goes, it's so sweet, down, down, and it does that like walk up. That was a slow song before that moment. I just want you guys to know that. So he played that and immediately it sparked the inspiration for the rest of the song. Oh, we're going to do something a little bit more fun, a little bit more upbeat, and it turned into a fast song. So the hook of the song is that thing that it literally is the creative essence of the song. Everything spawns from that point. And a lot of times, and on Unshakable, we did not go into that album with the idea of going from the hook on every song. And it shows. That's why the arrangements on all those songs sound like we couldn't make up our minds. If you listen to the lead lines, there's a bazillion lead lines at any given moment of the song because we just were playing with instruments that all sounded good and gave it to our poor mixing engineer out in Texas. And he wrote most of those songs. I just want you to know that. He's making all the creative decisions because we gave him a million hooks. So working from the hook of the song, it takes time. It can take time. It may not be something that immediately comes to you, but it's worth feeling it out and figuring out what that creative inspiration is going to be before you move on with the song in the production process, because it really does. It's like as soon as you find it, it's like, oh, okay, now that's the direction we're going now. Yeah.
Can I piggyback on that real quick? Yeah. With that, that's why I tell people phones or your phone is very, very handy because there's times where you can be on a plane and you'll just think of a melody in your head and you can just get on voice memo. We were in there and I was telling Jeremiah I've been wanting to write a song about the walls of Jericho, right? And then Taylor's read the description is talking about a heavenly rumble or whatever. So I whip up my phone and we're sitting there and I'm like, and it just came to me a melody for it or whatever, and then stuff like that. That's why your phone can be your best friend.
It really can be. And I have one final thing. Perfect timing, y'all. Perfect timing. The last thing was picking your sounds before writing the part. You're getting some next level stuff here, guys. I just want you to know that. So that sounds so ridiculous because it's like, of course, you're picking your sounds. You're limited to your parts. As soon as you download Logic or Ableton or something like that onto your computer and you have access to immediately GarageBand, that's free, and you have access on your phone or your computer to that amount of sounds, like you have, it's going up. You have access to like 10,000 sounds. You might just come up with a part that's just a MIDI file, and then you're cycling through sounds, listening to what that MIDI part sounds like with different sounds. Nothing kills the creative vibe more than doing that. I'm telling you, you'll spend 2 hours just doom scrolling through presets, trying to make that weird part that you wrote for this one sound earlier, make it work with something that doesn't even make sense, like an instrument that doesn't make sense. So try mentally to limit yourself. So think about what the parts actually are. So if you want an ARP sound, go into it with an ARP sound. But if you have like an ARP that you're working from, you can go ahead.
So what is your suggestion? Because that is the life of everything I've done recording wise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is your suggestion for not getting buried in the 10,000 samples that you can use?
Have a MIDI controller in front of you.
Yep.
And play with the sound. So when you are actually like scrolling through sounds, there's nothing wrong with scrolling through sounds. Don't get that
I mean,
wrong.
that could be days. Like, I could get like a clip and then I go back and change it and listen.
Have a controller in front of you, because what that allows you to do is when you hear the sound intuitively as a musician, you start to play things that make sense for that sound.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll actually like maybe play an ARP if it's more of like a plucky sound, or you'll play like a pad with like a lower velocity hits, stuff like that. It's going to make the sound actually sound better because you're not trying to make a part that doesn't make sense
Write a
work
part
for the sound.
Don't write a
Exactly.
Don't find a sound for the part.
Yeah,
Right.
you'll save yourself a lot of time and heartache and sadness. It's a lot better. But guys, I wish we had more time. If there's any other questions, real quick, we can knock out some questions.
Question.
So, Jeff.
So the hook, should that be a recurring theme through the song? Like that guitar part that you're talking about, we see it pop up other places.
Yeah, a lot of times it is. Most of the time it is something that if it's not the exact part, some other part will have spawned from it.
Yeah.
That's at least taking your mind back to that sound and that moment of the song. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like a hill song, you know, they're specific sound.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Elevation worship, they have this specific, you can pick up on what you start listening
Yeah.
to.
Yes. Yeah.
That is.
When you, and also like, if you really want obvious hooks, you want to like pick up on really obvious hooks. It can be more difficult because I know like contemporary gospel is really popular right now, and it can be difficult to pick up on that because there's so many like, that's almost counter of what contemporary gospel does. But if you want to hear really obvious stuff, just to like kind of pick up on what I'm talking about, all the old Young and Free stuff has super obvious hooks. Phenomenon. Da 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 da. That's the hook of the song.
Gospel, every section has a
Every section has the hook.
Yes.
Right. Because it's almost like 4 songs slammed into one.
Catch them into,
But that's all we have time for, guys.